Hello everyone, today I'm doing a re-upload. I made, sadly, a mistake in my latest video about attack ups and defense downs. It was brought to my attention that another content creator was doing a similar video, and their video proved different results. So I did some testing according to that person's comment, and yeah, I actually did a mistake. I apologize very much for that. I hope you can forgive me. As you know, I absolutely despise misinformation, so I feel very sorry for spreading any misinfo. So I did testing, and I got new values for attack ups and defense downs. Let's take a look what my findings brought us. This is the new values that I got. I tested this with the captain. What I did was I took off all my war elemental and supplemental damage. These are the only end damage multipliers I have in my captain build. And I did both attack buffs and defense downs with this setup. As you can see, a 20% attack buff gave me a 10% damage increase. 10% defense down was about 5% increase. 20% defense down, 10% increase. If I combine both of them, so defense down and attack buff at the same time, I got a 22% damage increase. So if you look at my previous values, what does this indicate? Our attack up and defense down damage does not act as a final damage multiplier, but it acts for our damage that we hit when we hit the damage cap. So let's say we do 1 million damage, right? Then a 20% attack buff would give us 100 health more damage if we do 1 million damage. So this damage is basically added to your damage, and then it is not multiplied by our U shields, right? So what does it look like? If you have the 1 million damage, right? Usually what we do, right, is we add the war elemental 30%, and we add the supplemental damage from my Spartan Echo, from my Berserker Echo, right? And this would be the damage that I'm doing. And my assumption was that the attack buff and defense down would function similarly as a multiplier, but they affect the base value of 1 million, and this increase gets added to our damage. So if we have the 10% increase, right, from our 20% attack buff, then we would add 100,000 to this. This would be then our damage value. So it is an addition. The damage you get from this does not get multiplied by damage multipliers. Because here, before, this was all with end damage multipliers. I realized Io also had a 15% damage multiplier from her character sigil. So this further changed the numbers here than what it actually should have been. And that also explains why the defense down here with the 13.4% doesn't line up with the 13% of the 30% version. Because, yeah, this was tested with the captain, who didn't have the extra 15% damage multiplier. So this is where I made my mistake. As I said, I very much apologize. Now, I will say the same as I said before, right? I do still think attack buffs are probably preferable over defense downs because they're more reliable. But combining all the effects together definitely nets us a huge bonus. These values you could still consider as correct if you ran the exact same setup of War Elemental plus Spartan and Berserker Echo. But if you have any extra final damage multipliers, like more supplemental damage or damage from character sigils, master traits, right, these numbers will not line up anymore. So yeah, now we know the new baseline here. This is our accurate numbers. As I said, not a final damage multiplier, but it's an addition to our damage cap that we hit. So yeah, I did this little correction. I will leave the previous video unlisted. I will leave it in the description if anyone is curious. But it was very important to me that I correct my misinformation. As I said before, I very much apologize. I hope you do forgive me. And that is it for this video. Bye bye.